from other funds, that we had captured everything we thought that was outstanding. You didn't have any more large numbers outstanding, because that could obviously, like it did at the end of last year, affect your cash balance. So what we did is, in the first column, you'll see it says, starts with 2007 and goes to 2015. And you'll see in the second column, those are the amounts that you have transferred out of the general fund to another fund. Typically that is done a lot of times with federal grants. If you are not going to have a positive number, a cash balance at the end of the fiscal year, and you have not requested the cash, then what you do is you advance money from the general fund, so those funds do not end in the red. They're not negative cash balance. And then what typically happens is at the beginning of the next school year, you then advance that money back to the general fund. So it's kind of like you're giving your other funds a quick loan, and the money comes back. So in the third column in blue, you have the next year. And in the fourth column, the amount that was actually advanced back. And what we did was, looking at all of those from 2007 to 2015, we totaled those. And then you can see in the year 2015 at the bottom there, 2016 is the year we're in right now, that has, so we believe that that's the amount that should be advanced back. And typically what you would see is the same amount being advanced out, being advanced in to the general fund. What you've had, though, is you've had multiple years of advances that were maybe not from the previous year, they go back a couple of years. So for example, you can see in 2010 you advanced out $11 million, and in the following 2011 you advanced back in $12.8 million. We are reasonably comfortable that we've captured all of the advances, meaning that they're being brought back to the general fund, because if you look at that far right column, we only have a variance, and we total all the advances out, and then all the advances back to the general fund were off by about $33,000. What we wanted to make sure was there was another $5 or $6 million out there that had not been advanced back in yet. So based on this information, we believe that everything's been returned to the general fund. But as you can see in the bottom section there, we have advances as a percent of the overall budget. You do have a lot of advances in your school district. If you look on the right-hand side, it says the statewide average. On average in the state, a district will advance about 1.3% of its overall budget. You guys have averaged over, since between 2007 and 2015, about 10%. So almost, if you base off of your $50 million budget, about $5 million a year is being advanced out and in. So that is a high number, and it was important to go back and try and reconcile this as much as possible so that we were able to capture this. In the bottom there, there is one area that you'll note. We did note that there was money advanced back to the general fund June 30th, 2015. There's a fund-to-fund transfer to the general fund from the Title I fund of $312,000. But we went back and looked to 2007, could not find the corresponding advance in, or how that money got to the, usually when you have a transfer into the general fund, we thought that maybe that should have been advanced, but we can't find where that money was advanced back, or advanced to the Title I fund. So there is the possibility that we noted there that money, the $312,000, should be actually go back to that 572 grant, because we couldn't find where it was put into that fund, which would lower your cash balance in the general fund if that's correct.
So thank you, Ryan. I think that the main thing that I would take away, first of all, Ryan was a little bit more confident in saying that we don't see any other advances and transfers. We can't guarantee you that. We did certainly go back and look at just what was posted to see that. Internally, you certainly have the ability with your staff there to do more homework and research on that. We just didn't want there to be a glaring advance that was coming back to the general fund or something that would increase the general fund. And I think we've done that to the best of our ability and the information level that we have. So with that, it helped us to go into this, and once again, as we look at the 2005 results, we had a $4.7 million where we spent more than we had coming in, and we don't believe, as we looked at this fiscal year 16, and I am on page 3 in your report now, this is the summary of the fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 20 advance in or something that would help the general fund cash balance, that's possible. We just didn't find it easily in the data that we had to review. I think that we should set that aside for a little bit now and take a look at what the numbers are actually showing us and the overall trend that the district is experiencing or expected to experience. We know that we built upon a revenue shortfall of about 4.7 in fiscal year 15, if that column were still here, and we see that revenue shortfall growing to about 5.8 million in fiscal year 2016. In 2016, an important number to keep in mind, if that 5.8 million holds, that you do spend that much more than you have coming in, and whether it's 3.8 million or 6.8 million at the end of the day, it's clearly a fact that you can't continue spending more than you have coming in. And it is this line where I'm moving the laser pen now that is the most relevant, and that is that we are continuing to see that district expenditures are exceeding revenue, and that this could get out of balance by as much as 30% by fiscal year 2020. And so therefore, even if we look at 16, currently the numbers that we're looking at show that this operating revenue shortfall would be about 12.5% of your revenue. And so if you were just looking at it from a revenue perspective, you would need to generate 12.5% additional revenue to balance the budget for this school year. Now,
this
yes.
is Pat Wahoviak, and as I look at these, from 16 to 17, the decrease is about 6 million. From 17 to 18, it's about 8 million. From 18 to 19, it's about 10 million, and from 19 to 20, it's about 12 million decrease. Why does it change that much from year to year?
Well, I'll spend a little bit more time on that in the next couple of slides. Okay, so the next area that I want to show you is at least the key pieces. And you will find this summary, and it will also help you as you look at page 4. If you look at the revenue assumptions, this helps us to put into perspective what are the biggest categories and where can we expect maybe some growth in revenue or revenue to stay fairly static or maybe even decline in revenue. And while the table, I'm going to ask you to first of all look at what are the sources of your revenue, and as you can see, the state funding is the largest part of revenue at 70%. The real estate revenue is 11.8% of your budget, and everything else is smaller. Of course, you have all other operating revenue, which ranges from anything from a donation to tuition that your district receives from other districts. Those are the primary categories that we're working with. What do we see happening? And in this table to the left of that pie chart, you can see what we are projecting to be the changes as we go forward. And the biggest changes that we aren't seeing, unfortunately for you, is with state revenue. And what we have noticed is that when we look at your state revenue funding as of right now, you are what's called a guarantee district, which means that they are giving you additional money to equal what you received in the prior year, because the formula based upon number of students in your state share index does not generate as much money as you got last year. And it's a really challenging amount for you because the guarantee amount is about 32% of your funding. And so the bottom line of this is that we see very flat revenue over the next 5 years. We just don't see growth occurring. The other thing that I referenced here is that, as you know all too well, unfortunately, that with the recession, the real estate revenue has certainly suffered because of valuation decreases, and we don't see anything changing there quickly in your situation. So, in answer to the question, first of all, if you look back and you see that, well, if you spent 5.8 million more than you had coming in 16, why would that go up by 2 million? Well, the first part of the formula is revenue's not growing. So there's